Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today, Avodah Zarah Daf Chaf Hey. We are going to begin on Chaf Daled Amud Beis, about 12 lines from the bottom by the two dots. So we quote the pasuk in Shmuel Aleph, "V'yisharna haparos b'derech," that literally, as we're going to see, these cows were singing on the road al derech beis shemesh while they were going to deliver the Aron. This was in the days of Eli HaKohen, in which the Jewish people were losing the war against the Pelishtim. So he incorrectly decided to have the Aron, this holy ark, go in the battle, and ended up that the Pelishtim took it over. But because they took the Aron, they were afflicted with an unusual illness, and they decided to have it sent back to the Jewish people. And they did this without anyone escorting the Aron. It was just being pulled on a wagon by some cows, by some animals, and it somehow miraculously made it back. So in this, the Gemara asks, what does it mean? V'yisharna haparos b'derech al derech beis shemesh v'goymer. Maya v'yishrena. What does it mean that they sang? So Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbeir, literally she'amar shira. It literally means that it sang. These cows actually said shira. They praised Hashem. Rav Zutra Bar Tovia Omer Rav Shirshu Penem Keneged Aron, that they basically turn their faces toward the Aron. Omer Shira. So my Shira Omer. So what do they say? So Omer Rav Yochanan Mishum Meir Oz Yashir Moshe Bnei Israel. So it's interesting that that's the pasuk of choice that they decided to sing, the same pasuk that we said upon crossing the Yamsuf. Rabbi Yochanan Didei Omer, he himself said that if Yamarta Mayomahu Hoidel Hashem Kiru Mishmo v'Goymer. So he says that instead they quoted the this pasuk in Sefer Yeshai. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Omer Mizaimra Yatzma. What does that mean? So it says Rashi Shalol Husker Shem Oimroi, that they actually stopped so as not to say Hashem's name, according to him. Mizmar Shil Hashem Shir Chadash Ki Niflois Asa Hoshil Lo Yamina V'Zar Kachay. Rabbi Lezer Omer Hashem Melech Yirgazu Amim, that instead they quoted, they said and sang the pasuk in Tehillim, so that it says that Hashem, who's our King, the nations tremble. Rabbi Shmuel ben Achmeni Omer Hashem Malach Gilus Lavesh, that they were adorned in garments. Rabbi Yitzchak Navka Omer Runi Roini Hashita, that let it rejoice. The Shita, Rashi says, is referring to the Aron, which was made out of Atzi Shitim, of Keshi wood. His Naifafi B'Roiv Haderech, so that they were exalted upon referring to the Aron, was exalted upon its traveling on the B'Roiv Haderech, on the road. Keshes Rikmi Zahav, that which is tied with golden strappings. So Rashi says that's Mitzupat Zahav Taharet, like the Aron, which was covered with gold inside and the outside. And then the pasuk says Hamuhulola b'Devir Armoin, that it was praised by the Devir, which is a book, as we're going to see, which is referring specifically to the Sefer Torah of Moshe, which is inside the Aron. As we know, the Gemara in Baba Basra says that there was, at least according to one opinion, a Sefer Torah inside. Okay, so and Rashi says, "Ve'ein locha edi gadol mizeh." There's no greater witness and testimony than this. Okay, of Hashem's greatness and splendor. He learned it on a different piece. When we say Vehibin, so Moshe Kam Hashem Yisrael, my Amru. So what it says that they said? What did they say? So that's what they said. Amarav Kaman Karu Parsila Sifra Devir. So according to the Persians, they called Devir a language of a sefer. How do we see that? From here. It says V'sham Devir Lifnim Kiras Sefer. It says that there was a Devir, which is Kiras Sefer. So we see this link between the word Devir and Sefer. Actually, I remember Kaman Kara Parsoi Lenida Dashtana. Why did the Persians call a woman who's a Nida this language? So mahalcha ki derech noshim li. So just like dashtana, Rashi says, is a noitrikoin. It's an acronym for derech noshim. So too, that's what it means over here with the dalid and the nun. Okay, derech noshim, dashtana. Okay. Anyway, so that's the meaning behind why they use that language. Okay, derech noshim. Oh, and we see mehalcha ki derech noshim li. So it's I have this upon myself like a woman who is a nida, and this is what Rachel said to her father, to Lavan, when he was in search for the terafim, for his idols, and what she took, and she said, and she was really sitting on them, and she says, I can't get up because ki derech noshim li. Okay, let's continue to Chaf Hey Amud Aleph. And then we find this pasuk in Sefer Yehoshua, Vayidoim Hashemesh Vayareach Amad, that it says that the sun and the moon, it stood still in the days of Yehoshua. Ad Yikoim Goy Oivav, until we were able to basically go and fight against our enemies. Halo hi ksuva al Sefer HaYashar. It's something which is written in the Sefer HaYashar. So the question is, what does that mean? My Sefer HaYashar, what book is that? So Rav Chiba Rabba Rav Yochanan says Sefer Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov. This is referring to the Sefer Bereshis. Shenikra Yishar, because Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov are Yashar. They're proper and straight. Shnemer Tomos Namshi Mois Yishar. Vehechar Miza. So where is this alluded to in Bereshis that in the future Yoshua will have this miracle happen to him? Because it says V'zariyeh Melo HaGoyim. So this pasuk toward the end of Sefer Bereshis, it says with regard to Ephraim and Menashe, when Yaakov was blessing his grandkids, it says V'yemoyin Aviv V'yermi Yadaiti B'ni Yadati. I know I'm supposed to give the bracha to the older one and not the younger one. I know what I'm doing. That he crossed his hands. Gam hu yel'am the gam hu yigdal. The older one is also going to be great, no question. The younger one, Ephraim, is going to be greater. So what does that mean? It means that he's going to be able to do something in which is going to be extraordinary, his descendants. So this is alluded to then in Sefer Yesharim, but nonetheless it's referring to the futuristic time in the days of Yeshua. So B'yamad HaShemesh B'chatzi HaShamayim. So it says that the sun stood still, B'chatzi HaShamayim, like in the middle of the sky, which means it sounds like in the middle of the day. And then the pasuk says V'otz lavo k'yom tamim, that it was not pushing to have a complete full day. So what exactly does that mean? So it sounds like the sun stopped for 2 times at the same day. So v'kama, but how long did the sun stay still? So there's a machlokas, whereas you're going to see either it's 24 hours, 36, or 48 hours, and either that refers to the length of the daylight or how many hours the sun actually stood still, which therefore you would have to add an extra 12 to the 24, 36, or 48. So the longest opinion is that day was 60 hours long. So Rav Yeshua and Levi, as we're going to see right now, Esrim be'arba shoy, for 24 hours, is how long it was. Because Uzal shis v'kam shis. The sun traveled in its normal path for 6 hours. In the middle of the day, it stopped for 6 hours. Uzal shis went the next 6 hours. V'kam shis, and then it stayed still right before shkis achama. Kulam milsa kiyam tomim, and therefore, if you add that all up, that's like 24 hours. That's like a full day. No, it was actually shleishim b'shis. It was actually a 36-hour day, 36 hours of sunlight. Ozul shis become treyaser. Actually, it started traveling for 6, but it didn't stop for 6. It stopped for 12. Ozul shis become treyaser, and again, it stopped another 12. Amidasu kiyam tomim, and therefore it stood still for an entire 24 days. That's what it means Kiyom Tomim, and therefore it was 12 normal days, but it was another 24 hours. Rabbi Shmuel ben Achmeni Omer Esim Arboim B'Shmoina was actually 48 hours. Also, Shias Vakam Terei Yasser was 6, and then it stopped for 12. Also, Shias Vakam Esim B'Arba. But the second time it stopped for a full 24-hour period. Shnamar L'Atz Lovo Kiyom Tomim Machlal Demikara Lav Kiyom Tomim. It sounds like the Yom Tomim, 24 hours, was only the second stopping, but not the first. Havi. Ikede Amri, some say B'Tosefta Plegi, that they're actually on the adding on is where they argue. Mishum Levi Omer Esim V'Arba, when we say 24, it was like this. Also Shiz V'Kam Triyaser. Actually, it started the normal 6, and then it stopped for 12 hours. Also Shiz V'Kam Triyaser. So Amidasu Kiyom Tomim. So therefore, you end up having 12 normal, and then an extra 24. So that's actually, according to this first opinion, is 36. Rabbi Lezer Omer Shleishim Meshesh, 36 hours of stopping. Ozol Shis V'Kam Trial. So it stopped for 12 then. Ozol Shis V'Kam Eser and Barba. So it stopped for 12, and then another 24, which is 36 plus the 12 is 48. Shmuel Marachmeni Omer Arbaim Shmoinu is actually 48. Ozol Shis V'Kam Eser and Barba. The first time it stopped was for 24. Also, and also it stopped again for 24 hours. So it stopped for 48 hours in normal 12 hours of traveling. Makashimidasu will be also. He makes a comparison the first and the second time. Mabiyasu kiyam tamim, imidasu kiyam tamim, both times, 24. Okay. Tana kishem she'amdu lo yichamu Yoshua, kach amda lo yichamu Moshe Nekdiman Ben Gurion. So we just learned a lot about Yoshua, that the sun stopped for a significant amount of time, but it also happened to Moshe, his Rabbi, and also later on with Nakdim Ben Gurion, which Rashi doesn't tell us the story, but it tells us, it's in Masechtas Tainus and Daf Yotes, how he needed money, and there was no rain, and on the last day he was mispal and it rained, but the guy said, yeah, but look, it's already dark out. So it's going to be dark. It was dark. So basically a miracle happened. The sun came out again so that he didn't end up losing out from this guy. So Yeshua Kroi, we already saw the psukim. Natim Gurin Gomer, it's a tradition to, as we saw. Well, Moshe Beno, how do we about Moshe Beno? So Asya Achel, it's Xeris Shava. Then it says, I shall place upon you fear. So therefore, these two elements of fear is placed upon you. So therefore, it was because of the same thing that took place. That is why we say it also happened as a motion. Taste, a different Xeris Shava. Ksiv hacha achal teis bachtacha v'ksiv Yeshua b'yoyim teis Hashem es he'emoidi. Okay, so it's the same thing. Rabbi Shmuel ben Achmeni Omer beguf v'dikra shema lei. We can tackle learn out right from the basic reading of the pasuk, because the pasuk says, it says asher yishmuun, or the entire pasuk. It says hayoyim hazeh achil teis bachtacha. The Yeroscha Pnei and there'll be a fear upon the nations. Tachas, because Kol Hashemayim Asher Yishmun, all the heavens above will hear. Shema'acha v'rogzu v'chol miponecha, and they'll be afraid from you. So, what does that mean? Asher Yishmun Shema'acha v'rogzu v'chol miponecha. So, Masay rogzu v'chol miponecha. So, why was everyone afraid? It's Meshah she'amdu le'chamu l'Moshe. It says that there was something significant that happened in the sky. So, therefore, it's mashma that obviously this is what happened. The sun stopped in days of Moshe. So Meisvei Vohayakiyamahu Lafanav. Understand, it says also in Yeshua that this never happened before, not afterwards, but it happened before and it happened afterwards. So it's true, but it may have happened, but not necessarily the same. It was just different by Yoshua in it. That different way that it happened never happened again. Ibo same as shois. Yeah, maybe it did happen. The sun stood still, but not for such a long time like we saw. Alternatively, the actual hailstorm, which was in the days of Yeshua, that didn't occur together with the sun stopping by the other times. Dichsiv, because the pasuk says again in Yoshua, V'hi b'nusam mipnei Yisrael heim b'moyrad beis chayrain Hashem hishlech alehem avanim gedolos. It says that Hashem cast these great stones min hashemayim from the heavens ad azekav yamusu rabim, and many people, the pasuk says, died because of it, because the avni habarad masher hargu b'nei Yisrael b'charev. So therefore, this was something in which only took place then and not any other time. So that's the second answer. Let's look at question 11. Mi hayu hashloish she'amdu lehem chama. Moshe, Yeshua, Nadim, and Ben Gurion. Let's keep going. So, Ksiv, the pasuk says, upon when David was mourning regarding Shaul Hamelech. So, and again, he was mourning because of this loss. It says in Ksiv, it's written. It says in the pasuk in Shmuel Beis, "Vayomer l'lamed b'nei Yehuda keshes." These people of Yehuda who were knowledgeable in archery and the bow and arrow, hiniksuva al Sefer HaYashar. So my Sefer HaYashar. So already said what Sefer HaYashar is. So Rav Chia Barabba, Rav Yochanan says Sefer Avraham Mitzvah Yaakov shenikru Yesharim. Again, this is referring to our avos that they're called Yesharim. Dechsiv Bahu Tomos Nafshi Mos Yesharim, as you said before. So Yachrisa Kamo V'Heicha Remiza. So where is this alluded to in Sefer Yashar? This notion that the descendants will have something to do with archery. So V'Heicha Remiza Yehuda Ati Yaducha Achicha. It says you. It is known regarding your brother, and it says Yadcha B'Oiref Oivecha Yishtach L'cha B'nei Avicha. So Yadecha B'Oiref means that your hand is like backwards in the back of your neck. So V'Ezu Hi Milchama, what tools of war are used? Shetzricha Yad Keneged Oiref, that you raise your hand opposite your neck. This is referring to the bow and arrow as you pull your head this far up. Rabbi Lezer Omer Zeh Sefer Mishnah Torah. It's not talking about the Sefer of Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov, but rather it's Mishnah. It's referring to Mishnah Torah. So look at Rashi. So it says Yad Keneged Oirev Hamoishech Hakeshes Noisen Yadav Keneged Einav. You put it like opposite your eyes. The Hainu Mul Ha'oirev. Okay, so it's actually referring to Mishnah Torah. The Amai Korele Sefer Yashar. So why is Mishnah Torah called Sefer Yashar? Dechsiv, because the pasuk, obviously in Sefer Devarim, says V'yasisa hayashar v'hatay b'nei Hashem, that you should do what is good in the eyes of Hashem. V'heichor miza. So again, how is this alluded to that Shevet Yehuda is linked over there to the bow and arrow? It says Yadav Rav Loi Be'ezuhi Milchama Shesricha Shtei Yadayim. It says his hands, which is Lashon Rabim. Why do you need two hands? Like if you have a sword, you only need one, or a gun or something. So you need two hands. Shmuel bar Nechmeni Omer Zeh Sefer Shaiftim. Third answer, this Sefer Yashar is Sefer Shaiftim. But my Karule Sefer Yashar, Dechseb B'Yamim Ahim Ein Melech Yisrael Ish HaYashar Be'ein of Yaseh. So it says that in those days there was no king, a person did what which is Yashar. V'Heichor Miza. So where do we see again the bow and arrow by them? So because the pasuk says, obviously in Shaiftim, Raklaman Das, that you should know Darius B'nai Israel will lamdem Muhammad to learn war. Rakashir Lefnim lo yadu'um. So what is that referring to? Ve'ezuhi Muhammad shetzricha limud. It says that's something that you need to learn, something which you need skill and practice. So what is that? So Haviyarm is a keshes. That's referring to the bow and arrow. You have to learn how to do it. But if you have a gun or a sword, so you don't really need to use it. Obviously, you can learn how to attack better with a sword, but a sword in itself is very powerful, which is why, as we've said in Baba Basra and Yesh Neichlin, it says that when it says that there was a Shchem Echad Asher Lokachti Miyadi Mecharbe Vakashti. So it says a Cherev is referring to Tefil, and a Keshes is Bakasha. Because when it comes to a sword, it's very powerful, says the Brisker Rav, and therefore it's easy to attack. So the tefil is so powerful on its own. However, a keshes, which needs expertise, and you have to pull it so it's like closer to your heart, that's harder to do, and that you need as a bakash is a higher level. Rabban v'manolan Yehuda ksiv. How do you know this is by Yehuda? The ksiv, because also it's stated in Shaiftim, Vayhi achri Moshe Yeshua, that after that Yeshua died, V'yishalu b'nei Yisrael b'Hashem, so they turned to Hashem. Lamer mi yalu lanu el hakanaini batchila hilachim bo. Who's going to basically join us and be able to help fighting against our enemies? V'yarm Hashem Yehuda yaleh. So Hashem said, "Don't worry, Yehuda will do it. Hine nastati es aretz biyadai. The land will be in his hands." In other words, you don't have to worry because Yehuda is an expert. So therefore, we see that Taka, it's Yehuda's expertise that will help us. Question 10. What's Sefer Yashar? So Sefer Yashar is Sefer Bereshis, at least in this context, which is Yaakov, and the Remez is that it says by Ephraim, that they're going to be, it's going to be very knowledgeable and very clear of their level of expertise, and that's what that's referring to. Okay. All right, weiter. And then we find a pasuk in Shmuel Aleph also. It says, "Vayorim hataboch es hashoik, va'aleha v'yasel lefnei Shaul." So the butcher went, this cook, if you will, he took this part on top of it, and he brought it in front of Shaul. Vayomer hine hanishar simo fanecha ochol. Okay, go and eat it. Kizkila moyed shamulcha. Okay, so what is it? My v'ha'aliyah. What does that mean? That like, on top of it. So Rav Yochanan Omer shoik va'aliyah. So it's referring to these different parts of the animal, including the aliyah, the tail. So my va'aliyah, the misamcha shoik aliyah, because they're basically, says Rashi, shoik samach aliyah, they're near one another. Rabbi Lezer Omer shoik v'chaza. It's the shuk and the breast. So my va'aliyah, the machas l'chaza aliyah the shoik. Says Rashi, that you put the breast on the thigh, gabi chaz of a shaik, because like when it comes to the karban shlamim, at the time of doing the tanu for the wave offering, you do the chaz of a shaikar together. So therefore, it's referring to that. So kiboy anufe, when you need to wave it, uman filo when you wave. Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani Omer shuk v'shoifi. It's actually the hip bone. My ba'ali shufi ali the shuk koi, because that's basically where it's located. Lo dis yachadisha mehen. So our Mishnah told us that we do not want a woman to be anywhere near these ovik because there's a concern of her being violated. So, but my askina, what does that mean that we're afraid? And Rashi actually says, "Shanoshim daitin kalais." So we're especially worried of yichud. So my askina, ilim b'machad, that she shouldn't be with one. Tekavasi gabi Yisrael, which means only she shouldn't be alone with a akum, but with the one Yisrael is okay. What are you talking? Mimi sharvet nan u'lisachad ish achadim shtei noshim. A guy can't even be with two women. Certainly, a guy can't be alone with one woman, right? So that can't be what it means. Ella, as we continue to Chav Heyman al Hamabez, El B'Tlasa. 3 of the Avodah Zarah. The Kabbalah Gabi Yisrael, and which therefore means B'nai Yisrael. If there's one woman with 3 men, it's okay. But Perutzim Yishari, but if they're Perutzim, it shouldn't be allowed. Datanan, Abel Isha Achas. A woman can be with 2 men. Only with those men are ksherim. Even if it was 10 it's not good. Because we actually find the story of 10 Perutsim that went out with this woman and outside the city and did an Avera. And Rashi says a meat was like a casket, and it says that they went chutz ir laver kain kaiver mace shol yavinu. So no one knew what their intentions were. So lotzricha beishto imoy. So the answer is, if even though the ishto, the wife of the Ovid Kachavim, is with him, still you cannot. She cannot be alone, because even though the Ovid Kachavim is with his wife, he still may violate her. Because when it comes to Kachavim, his wife will not deter him. However, a Jewish woman would deter him, and therefore, if it's ishto imoi, so you can be alone with 2 women. So normally one man can't be alone with 2 women, but if one of them is your wife, then it's okay. But typically, mishum shvichas damim. Understand? What was this whole issue that she can't be alone is because of her being violated. And then the Mishnah said later on that a yid, a man, cannot be alone with an akum because of shvichas damim. So aren't we afraid that, again, of shvichas damim by a woman? So Rabbi Yirmiyah bi'isha chashuva askina. We're talking about a woman who is a prominent woman, and because she's a prominent woman, says Rashi, bein hanashim uvein hanashim. Very interesting. That how is she valued? She has high value in the eyes of a man and a woman. So how is that? So Isha, says Rashi, yafa v'krevel l'malchus. She's a beautiful woman, and she's connected to royalty. So because of that, the mistafu mina v'lo katula. Because of this, the person who took her will be afraid and not going to kill her. Of a mishum arayis ika diafahi. There's still an issue of arayis because she's beautiful. The itzrach, says Rashi, lashmiinan dotis yached. You can't be alone with this akim. Chashin shema tispate. Maybe he will persuade her. Of a isha she'ena chashuva. But if she's not an isha chashuva, ben hanashim among men, but chashuva ben hanashim, but women find her, let's say, beautiful. Mishum rechitza nami ika. Then you're right. There is a problem of ritzicha, that maybe she'll be killed. Maybe he'll have be with her, then kill her. He doesn't hold this din of isha kli zayin, that the woman's weapons are with her. Okay, so let's look at the Gemara. It says, as again, a woman, her weapons are with her. What does that mean? So Rashi says, Afal gav de'enoi chashuva, even if she's not so important or prominent between men and women, ein harigaisa, they're not going to kill her. Ella baleha, they're just going to have bia with her. Kivan shebaleha enu horga, because once they have bia, they're not going to kill her. They feel enu karobel malchus, even if she's not related or very powerful. Nami ilo ashmiina the chashina na arayis lo havim estabra the mitzvah mishum shvichas damim. So we're not concerned with shvichas damim. The whole issue is because of arayis, and it doesn't matter if she's beautiful, she's not beautiful. Her kli zayin is still there. So by now, what's a nafkamini? Kamenayu isha chashuva. If she is powerfully connected, let's say, to the government, ben hanashim, v'shenu chashuva ben hanashim, she's not so beautiful. So that is the difference. And Rashi explains this. Rabbi Yirmiyah, according to the opinion of Rabbi Yirmiyah, who says that she's an isha chashuva, so according to him, Isha chashuva demashma chashuva ben hanashim, that she's chashuv by men and women. So hacha chashuva ben hanashim v'loy ben hanashim shari liachudei. However, if let's say she may be very powerful among men, but not among women, in other words, they don't find her attractive, so then you're allowed to be miyached because she's not good looking, right? Misham arayis Rashi is nami leika damucheresi. She's ugly, so you're not going to want to have tashrish with her because she's just not attractive. Okay, very interesting. So that's the nafkamina, whether or not she may be choshev, very powerful, but and therefore you're not going to murder her, but you're also not going to have tashmish with her either if she's not attractive. Tanik Avasid Rav Idi Baravin Haisha Shafal Avalpi Shahashalom Ima Lotisachin Mahen Memne Shachashud Mal Harayas. Okay. So again, according to Rav Yirmiyah, he says that your mutter in the case where she's not chashuva bein hanoshim, she's but since she's chashuva to men, right, very powerful, no one will kill her. But she's unattractive, so he would he would not sin with her. Rav Idi Baravin says she may not sekud himself because still he may sin with her, even if she's ugly, right? So that's the nafkamin over there. Okay, good. Okay, fine. Lo yisyachid adam imahen. So I should not be, a yid shouldn't be with them because of shlichus dam. Tanaban. Yisrael is dabin lo evik hachavim b'derech. What happens, because the evik hachavim can just kill you at any time. So what happens if you encounter one of these guys on the road? So what can you do to try to protect yourself that nothing happens? So taiflo liyaminoi. So you should keep them to your right side. That's the akum should be on the right side of the Israel. Says Rashi, Shimiratza oivik hachavim l'hargav. If he wants to kill you, Yishalch Yisrael yad yaminoi v'yachis boy. So since my right hand is my stronger hand, I'll keep the akum over here. So if I see he's about to do anything, I can use my dominant hand to basically stop him. Rabbi Shmuel ben Noisha, Rabbi Yochanan ben Braiko, Eimer B'sayif, with regard to a sword, Taifel Yaminai, then you should keep him to the right side. But Makil, when it comes to like a club, Taifel Smoilai, then you should put him on the opposite side, on the left side. And some people actually explain, like, when it comes to a double-breasted suit, you'll see that men, they have their suit, they put the right over the left, like this. And the idea is that they would have a sword, you would be able to pull it out, because the sword is on the left side, and you pull it out with your right hand. And the Hasidic Shavart, and also Hasidim and women, they do the opposite. They have the right over the left. And that symbolizes peace, because it shows that, like, I'm not able to get to my weapon. But it's the same idea over here. Okay. Hayu oilin b'malo. Let's say you're on an incline, or yardin birida, you're going down, and an akum is near you. Lo yehi yisol lamati v'evik hachavim lamalo. You always want to be at a higher level. That's what it says. Lo yisol lamalo v'evik hachavim lamata. You want to be above, on higher ground. You're more safe in that case. Furthermore, v'yashuach lefanav, you shouldn't bend down in front of them. Shema yirayt says gulgoltai, because maybe that'll be their chance to basically smash open your skull. So he said, so where should you go? If he wants to know, like, where you're going, you should tell him the longer route. Say, like, how far are you going? So, I'm going 2,000 miles. Even though you're only going 100 miles, then you get right off the road. Because Kadesh Yossi Yaakov Avinu Esav Harasha, that's what Yaakov said. He said, Ad Asher Abo El Adoini Seira, until and go to this very, very far place, into Seir, right? It's very far. V'ksiv Yaakov Nosta Sukaisa, he ended up only going to Sukkot, which is a much shorter route. So basically, tell them a further distance so that they'll plan on harming you at the end, but you'll get away at the closer location before they have the opportunity to harm you. Okay. Let's try to get to the Mishnah. Maseh b'talmidi Rabbi Akiva shahayechem b'liksiv. So there's a story about Rabbi Akiva's students that were traveling to this place. Pogu behen listim. So you had a bunch of bandits. Amar lehen on atim hoch. Where you're going? So amar lehen l'akoi. We're going to Akko. Kivan shegiel liksiv. Pirshu, they immediately separated because Akko is much further away. Samrulhen Talmidi Miyatim, who are you? Samrulhen Talmidi Rabbi Kiva. We're the students of Rabbi Kiva. Samrulhen Asher Rabbi Kiva v'talmidav shlo pog behen adam ra oilam, that no adam ra will encounter you. Rav Menashe Havi Ozol, as we continue to Chavav and Aleph, Lebei Turta, which is some location. Pogabei Genavi, so he encountered again thieves and they were dangerous. Samalei, again they said, L'on Ka'al, so where are you going? Amalei L'Pumpadisa, we're going pretty far to Pumpadisa. Kimat Lebei Turta, when they got to this other place, Parish they separated. Amalei Talmida the Yehuda Remoat. You must be you are very crafty in your language to have gotten out of this. Samulahu Yadisule. So says Rashi, Talmida shel Rabbi Huda Havi. This is the students of Rabbi Huda. So you, how do you know that he's crafty and he's a Ramai? The Rava should be your will to Havi Hanu Inshi Bishamte, that they should be put like in Cherem. Says Rashi, Lafisha Adam Gadol. He was a chosh of a person, b'shamte chayil talayhu b'shamte. So he cursed him with excommunication. So also abdu genivta esim v'tartin shnin v'atzalchu. So they tried to cause problems for a period of 22 years, but they weren't able to do so. Kivanda chazu asu kulhu tavu shamtaihu. And then at this point, they wished to excommunicate. V'havibahu chad girdana. There was this weaver, dul asa le'shruya shamte, achol arye, and they were consumed by a lion. Hadidami inshi girdana, referring to a weaver, delo taizen, which is not humble, shata batzir mishneh, will increase the years of your life. Tana chazi ma ben gandhi bavav listim to Eretz Yisrael. So you see that the Ganavim of Bavel that met, says Rashi, shepagu barav menashe nis parku lecherev adam gadol. Listim Eretz Yisrael shepagu b'tamid Rabbi Kiva sibur b'shivchai. They, on the other hand, praised Rabbi Kiva's students. They praised him. They'll be shestam listim perutzim miganavim. Even though maybe it's true listim are worse, this again shows the greatness of Eretz Yisrael, that even the lowest of the people were greater than the people that were on the lower levels in Babel. Let's look at question 13. Shol akum lahechan hoylich yarchvu asaderech b'mi metzinu v'tayra shenahad kain. So he said by Yaakov that he told Esav Adashiravo El Adaini Seira, we're going to very far to Sair. The truth is, Yaakov Nasa Sukkaisa. He just went to Sukkais, which is not as far. Okay, TB8. Lotus Yachad Isha Imahen Memnisha Chashudam al Arayas. My Kamashma Nahari Gam Im Yisrael Prutzim Asura Lisyached, Umadua Lo Choshu Nami Mishum Shvichas Damim. Okay, so first of all, he said, I wrote, Yafilu im habal imoi, which is going to be very similar to question TA7. So this is TB8. And I also wrote, B'shvichas damim lochshash v'mnei shehi isha chashuva, o v'mnei shekli zayin shela biyada, tashim shlo roitz chinoisa. They're not going to kill her. I think that's a pretty solid answer. Let's look at question TA7. Again, similar question. My Kamashmalan, so this is how they wrote the answer. Ari ishtu imo, de Yisrael shari, uba akam in ishto mishamrato, his wife will not protect him. Shvichas damim lo cheshinan, o de Ari isha chashuva, de mirtas, o misham sheisha kli zaina oleha, adkan.